Chet Holmgren just looks phenomenal.
It's
Chet
happening.
Holmgren has like
It's happening.
genuinely taken the leap. Like it's not just okay, like Chet Holmgren, he's a like contender for the number 1 overall pick, I guess. Like he's definitely in that top 3 mix. We're at the point with Chet where I think there is a very real case that he should be the number 1 overall pick over Jabari Smith. I don't know that I'm quite there yet, but it's essentially like 1A and 1B in my mind. You look at Chet's numbers last week, 23 points, 12 rebounds, 4 blocks against San Diego, made 3 threes in that game, shot 9 of 12 from the field. Against BYU, I mean, he was a fucking joke against BYU.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Like 20 points, 17 rebounds, 6 assists, 5 blocks, 9 of 14 from the field. BYU is a top 30 team in the country. He obliterated them. It is one of probably, like we talked a lot about, like, hey, what's the best prospect game that we've seen this year, earlier in the season? Like, I think we talked about that, like right at the turn of the year or so.
Yep.
That is the best prospect game I've seen this year.
Top 4. It's in the mix.
Yeah. Like he annihilated BYU on both ends. He did every single thing that he will be asked to do in terms of translatability to the NBA in that game, even over Johnny Davis against Purdue, even over Johnny Davis against Houston, I guess, over Ochai against Michigan State. That was the best prospect game I've seen from any player this year.
Jabari Smith
against BYU.
Jabari Smith against Alabama was ridiculous too. For Chet Holmgren, you know the saying that he does things on the court that you can't teach? Chet does things on the court that like you can't even fathom. And I've watched Chet for 5 years now, 6 years now.
It's like things you wouldn't even think to teach him.
Right. And even when you've seen him as much as I have, I'm still like surprised watching the game. And I was up Saturday night watching it at 11 o'clock or whatever it was. I couldn't look away. Like everything that was happening, like just didn't make sense. So the game before, we were going back and forth talking when he had 11 points in 90 seconds against San Diego. And he like blocks a shot, goes end to end, layup. Steal three. The announcers are laughing because that's the only like response that made sense. Like, what are we doing? They're rooting for him. Pitch it back. Hit him another one. Hits a 3.
The one play was hysterical. It was like blocked shot, grab and go, like got his own rebound, like handed it off like right as he crossed half court, came back to Nembhard for a trailer 3, and it's just like,
It was 11 points in 90 seconds, like within the flow of what was going on. Not a, hey, I'm searching. I'm trying to get like one more. Like I'm trying to get 30. It was within what they were doing. And then he does the, seeing Wedding Crashers when they're playing football and there's an injury. They go, yeah, daiquiris. He did the run it back. They call timeout. He goes, yeah, daiquiris, run it back. Like we'll do this again. We'll do another round. And then like he did, and Mark Few like had to talk to him. He said, "Hey man, we just celebrate with our teammates here because they did the too little thing early in the game too." He's like, "Don't do that." So I think now it's just like run it back to his teammates. Like, let's do it again.
By the way, like Mark, Drew Timme has been telling guys that they're too small for like 2 years now. I've been doing
with the mustache.
Like,
he's a grown man, but hey,
whatever.
Let Chet eat. He's a cheat code in the WCC. He is. I mean, a few of the plays, and I took notes from watching the BYU game because I'm going to forget this. I'm going to rewatch on Synergy. Here's just a few of them. He catches it in the post, and he finishes like over the top of his head. Like the rims here just finishes over the top of the head. I'm like, all right, that's strange. Out of pick and roll, they're in drop coverage, and the ball handler comes off. He's in drop coverage, and he still closes out and blocks the shot. I said, I don't know if I've seen that. Like before, not a challenge. Like he reached out and blocked the shot. There was another play. He was called for a foul, but he blocked a shot. The ball went to a different guy. He recovered and blocked that guy's shot on his second jump. I just don't like it. Doesn't I don't like, how do you do this on a basketball court? So this is where I'm at. I still
my brain doesn't compute him.
No, like, it doesn't. That's why it's so hard to put into words.
And by the way, like the most impressive thing I saw him do this week was there was that play where he was like rim running and he fucking like OBJ style catches it one-handed
Oh
on a
yeah,
lob
yeah,
from
yeah, yeah.
Nemhard.
Yes. That was the one
And
way above the rim down the far end of the court. Yeah.
way above the rim,
Yep.
somehow dunks it all in one fell swoop. And it's just like, this guy is fucking 7 foot tall. There is no way he should be able to do this. Like, there is no way that someone should be so coordinated that he should be able to go up, get that ball with one hand, his inside hand, by the way, which is an even harder catch than it is if he was going up with his left, catching it and dunking it all in one. I was just like, I can't fathom someone who is like 6'9" making that catch, let alone like someone who's 7'1" and like gangly and still growing into his body.
Yeah.
Like,
and
his
getting
coordination is insane.
and getting comfortable with the college game and actually getting his feet wet. And is his play just more about getting acclimated to college and everything clicking? Or some people point to, is it the competition level in the WCC where it's not their non-conference schedule where it was Duke, Texas, UCLA, Alabama, Texas Tech? I just think it's clicking. I know the post defenders and the guys closing out aren't the same caliber of talent or height or length or wingspan. The guys in WCC play shooting 69% of the field and 60% from three. Like it, and so like I also started digging. I'm a big like, let me see what opposing coaches are saying. Let me see what they say post game. And Mark Pope from BYU, the head coach, had a quote after the game, and it kind of made me twist my thinking a little bit. He said he's a ball screen guy. You kind of have to pick your poison. You're either going to not switch him and give him up a 64% 3-point shooter, or you're going to switch and you're going to have an undersize issue, which we had 3 times in the lane with him. So maybe I'm even looking at it. I'm very high on Chet, but maybe I'm looking at it differently where I thought he'd be a liability because he's so skinny, but maybe it's a strength because the defense doesn't even know like how to defend that. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't when he catches the ball or doesn't catch it because he scores so many different ways.
Yeah, and look, part of this is that BYU like starts 2 very undersized guards. So like if they're switching one of Tajon Lucas or Alex Barcelo onto Chet Holmgren, like they're fine, right? He has a foot on those guys.
Right.
Yeah. And like that's something that will happen occasionally in the NBA, but not as much, right? I just BYU is a top 40 team, top 30 team in the country.
They're good,
right?
Yeah, they're good.
Like they're actually good. The teams near them in the Ken Palm rankings right now: North Carolina, Oklahoma, Florida, Michigan, Mississippi State, Providence. Providence is a top 10 team. You know, like Providence probably shouldn't be 42nd in Ken Palm, but I understand based off the math why they are. Chet Holmgren is so good right now in terms of the way that he impacts both ends of the court. That to me is why that BYU game was the most impressive game I'd seen. Johnny Davis was great on offense against Purdue, and he was good on the ball defensively. He didn't completely obliterate everything BYU or Purdue wanted to do with the basket. Like he didn't completely, make it so like it was impossible for Purdue to score. BYU in that game shot 33% from 2-point range.
Mm-hmm.
Like they couldn't go in there and score if they tried. They scored 57 points on 82 possessions. That was an 82 possession game. That was not like a 70 possession game where Gonzaga got hot. Like BYU, they did okay defensively. Like if we're being honest, like BYU was not, the defense was not the problem there. The problem was that they could not score effectively with Chet Holmgren in the game against Gonzaga. Like for him to go 2017, he completely shut down the defensive side of the glass, obviously, like no second chance opportunities. That was an incredible basketball game. It was incredible. And you wanted to,
it was when they were up by so many too. I honestly couldn't change the channel. I couldn't go to bed. I couldn't watch a different game because I was waiting for what Chet did next because he was in such a groove on both sides of the floor. I didn't care it was a 20-point game. Like I wanted to see the next play on defense. I want to see offensively. Is he going to now shot fake and take it off the dribble and try to dunk on a guy? Is he going to hit another 3? He's uncovering even more stuff that I didn't know he had in his offensive bag. I'm very curious to see kind of how this shifts because we talked about doing a race for number one segment and said, yeah, maybe we'll do it for a week or two. It still feels like a race. Like I had Paulo
Yeah.
number one, I had
Yeah,
Chet
you
number one, I
brought
had
up a good
Jabari number
point.
one.
Yeah,
It's all changing kind of by
yeah.
the week, and I don't want to be too like hot takey and say, hey, every week I have a new number one guy, but it's still a battle. Like I don't think anything is set in stone.
Well, I want to just like kind of let you tell me what you said on the phone yesterday. Like it's a literal roller coaster. Like I think
Yeah.
that that's like the best
Yeah.
comparison at this
It
point.
is. It is. And I think we're kind of like, Jabari was like all the way up like a week ago. It's this guy's a runaway and he's doing everything right. Then he had a couple okay games. He only had 7 field goal attempts versus Georgia, and Katie Johnson and Wendell Green combined for 39. So he was just all right. Paolo, we've seen just kind of the lack of scoring at times and creation, which is kind of nuts because he was noted for that. I don't think did he take a shot? Did he score in the second half of the game yesterday against Virginia?
Took one shot, did not score against
So
Virginia in the
like they're
second half.
kind of going here and Chet's going up, but hey, it's a roller coaster. It's not it's not Splash Mountain. It's not one drop. Like we're gonna go back up. I don't know where it ends up during the year, and we kind of have to frame it too of who they're playing and who they're playing with and next to. But yeah, it's probably like a slight edge to Chet right now, despite last week me saying definitively it was Jabari Smith. Jabari Smith's a fantastic prospect, could still be number one. If we're just going based on a week or two and the development of what we've seen in front of us in our eyes, it's Chet Holmgren for the moment.
Are you at the point, and this is a good question that'll involve this Virginia game against Duke, where Virginia beat Duke 69-68, I believe was the final score. Duke was terrible defensively in that game. The last possession was like a pretty real breakdown from Mark Williams, where it looked like Mark thought they were supposed to be in zone and they weren't. And he left the inbound man, and that was Reese Beekman. And Reese Beekman went out and knocked down a game winning three. Banchero was also not awesome on defense in that game. Like Tony Bennett did a really good job of kind of isolating him in space, I thought, and trying to take advantage of what he brought to the table. On top of that, like he didn't score in the second half. Are you at the point where you're considering this potentially a 2-person draft, given that I know you've been lower on Paulo throughout the year? You have seen him more in the Jaden Ivey, Johnny Davis range, where you have those guys ranked. Are you at the point where you see this as more of a Chet and Jabari draft as opposed to like Chet, Jabari, and Paulo? Or are you, still like in that 5-person range? Like where are you at on this?
Chet and Jabari for me. And then the next kind of tier is, and I don't have orders, but the next tier is Paulo, Jaden Ivey, and Johnny Davis. And Jaden Ivey's been significantly better than Johnny Davis the last week or two. Johnny's hit some rough shooting performances. Penn State really shut him down. I think he's like 2 for 14. With Paulo, it's just he's stripped too often off the dribble. There's too much hesitation getting to his move, where it should be more of a catch and shoot. The efficiency has dropped. He was 5 for 15 against Louisville, 10 for 22 against Notre Dame, 5 for 14 against North Carolina. Not great last night. Just the holes are showing themselves more. And then on the Duke roller coaster, he's also next to AJ Griffin, who's now Superman, depending on the game, where he has 27 points against North Carolina, 3 for 6 from 3. He's throwing a beach ball in the ocean. That's how big the hoop is. And then last night, he's sort of pedestrian. And I think AJ and Paulo will kind of go like this. The Paulo from the beginning of the year, I still, regardless of how well he was playing, it was, can he shoot from 3? Is he able to defend in space? Is he able to guard up and down the lineup? Where the Jabari Smith and Chet Holmgren, I just simply think can do more. And I'm worried about Paulo's going to be able to score, but how's that fit going to be defensively? And if there's really no 3-point shot there, and he's really taking one shot in the second half against Virginia, those are the type of things that make me kind of put him down that second tier as opposed to the first one.